Hello, everyone. My name is Ismail Shahtakhtinski. I'm the principal immigration attorney at I.S. law firm. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to have our next live session where I will answer as many questions as possible about asylum interviews and generally about any questions that our audience may have. Please don't forget to hit like and to subscribe to our channel so that you can be informed about our next sessions. I wanted to talk to you about the asylum interview. Asylum interviews, as you know, are being scheduled in chaotic order. There is no specific order. Some of the asylum applications are being filed, and then for some of our clients, we get interviews scheduled within 6 months or so. For some of our clients, we get interviews scheduled many years after, and there is no specific order or logic that I can sense how these interviews are being scheduled. But at the time of the interview, what you should do, that's the whole purpose of this video, is to discuss how to prepare for the interview and how to answer the questions. So I'll be brief about this. I'm a little bit tight on time, but I will briefly tell you about this. We have a separate video on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it, and you will see that there is a video about lengthy video. It's about 40 minutes or so. It goes into great details explaining how to prepare for asylum interview, what to do, what not to do, and how to answer questions, and so on and so forth. So that's very important. If you have asylum interview coming up, or you filed an asylum application and you're expecting an interview anytime soon, it's very important that you watch that video and you follow those instructions. But I'll run through some of them now as much as I can quickly, so I have enough time to answer as many questions as possible. So number one, for your asylum interview, make sure you arrive on time. Obviously have all the original documents that you filed with you. You don't need an interpreter if you can understand me now speaking, and if you can speak to the extent that you can express your thoughts. It's very important to understand that interpreters, having a translator at the interview doesn't necessarily help, and sometimes it hurts because it creates little, some of the stuff may be lost in translation, and the tone is not the same. The interpreter is not able to convey the emotions. And then there are sometimes misunderstandings, and the interview takes much longer. And the asylum officer may be a little bit confused or irritated by the time that it takes them to get just a simple answer out of you. I'm not saying don't use an interpreter. I'm saying, only use it if you really need it. Okay, there are rumors that I've heard that some people say that, oh, you need an interpreter because that's what's expected. That's wrong. If you can be without an interpreter, then be without an interpreter. When you answer the asylum officer's questions, be on point, direct. That's number one rule, and that's one of the most confusing. That's one of the most violated rules is that the applicants go to the interview and the officer asks them simple questions or even complicated questions, but the applicant avoids giving direct answers. And these officers are trained. They go through these bunch of these interviews during the week, and several of those of the interviews during the day. And if they don't get a direct answer, that's an indication maybe you're lying or you're hiding something and you're not forthcoming. So make sure you give direct, on-point answers. If it's a yes or no question, you answer yes or no. If you need to explain your answer, make sure you first answer the question before you start the explanation. The problem occurs when you start explaining even before the officer gets the answer. The officers, they're busy, they have too many interviews, they even have interviews on Saturdays starting from 6 a.m. They're trying to catch up because there is substantial backlog of asylum cases. So that's why, be respectful. If the officer asks you a question, just focus on that question. Make sure the officer gets the answer, and you don't have to explain anything unless it's so important that for example, if the officer asks you, "Did you ever report this incident to the police?" and you want to say no, but you also want to add, for example, that because I was afraid because the police, is also, mistreating people of my ethnicity, for example, if it happens in the country. So, but Usually you don't have to explain any answers. Don't worry, the officer will ask you the next question. Don't interrupt the officer. You don't have to answer very quickly. It doesn't impress just to have ready answers for all the questions. Don't memorize your declaration, your statement in support of asylum application. You should review it the night before or so, or 2 days before the interview, but don't memorize it. You don't want to refer to anything in your documents. You don't want to give the answer to the officer saying, as I wrote in the declaration, or as my medical certificate states, I suffered blah, blah, blah. This shows that you're just, referring to a document saying, as I wrote in the declaration. It means that you're just basically thinking out loud and you memorized your declaration, but you're just buying more time, saying verbally what you were thinking. How did I write in my declaration? So anyway, don't do any of that. If you're not sure about some specific answers or dates and so on, make sure you're not well, make sure you do disclose that you're not sure. What I mean by that is, if they say what day of the week it was, and you say it was Wednesday, and then the officer checks on the calendar going back, and then sees that it was Friday, then you may have trouble. It's not going to cause immediately denial of your case, but it is an inconsistency, which many of which together cumulatively can cause your credibility being suffered. So, and then your asylum application may be denied. So, if you are not sure, but you think it's important, first of all, if you don't know, if you don't remember, say, I don't know, I don't remember. But if it's so important that you want to give an answer, but you're not sure about it, make sure, and that's one of the things that if you're thinking about it, say it out loud, to tell the officer and say, I'm not sure about it, but I think it was Wednesday. I may be wrong. Now, don't do it on giving answers to every question, because then, obviously you're just covering up under this, prelude to every answer, and that's not good. That means you're trying to evade being caught lying, and that's not good. So you want to be sincere, open, and obviously truthful in your answers. But again, if there is something important that you forgot, but you want to estimate, make sure you indicate that. Now, I do already have a lot of questions, which I will try to go through as much as possible. As I said, there is a video, and we will put it in the links in the comments when this video is posted. There is a separate video about how to prepare and how to answer questions at the asylum interview. I think there are two videos. One is the short one, which goes through the main points, and then there is a very thorough video where I went to great details explaining how to prepare for asylum interview, what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth, even to the extent of what to wear for your asylum interview. So watch that video. It will be in the comments section once this video gets uploaded to our YouTube channel. But also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. That's very important and that's very helpful. That's your way of saying thank you for all this free information. So let me go through the questions. What to do if so there are some questions that are posted by the admin because they are either confidential or from other sources where those questions were posted to us. But you can also post the questions in the chat section. Please do that. Now, this chat section isn't stored. It's not going to be publicly visible. Plus, obviously it's a public live video. So to the extent that you feel comfortable disclosing your name, but try not to disclose your name or too many specifics of your case. You can ask general questions. It's just my recommendation because asylum matters are usually as confidential as it gets in immigration matters. So what to do if USCIS returns my application? So if USCIS return your application, and I assume this refers to asylum application because it's different question between asylum application and everything else. Most of it's everything else. If you filed your asylum application and it was returned after your 1-year deadline, the fact that you filed and it was returned becomes a very helpful tool to use to overcome the 1-year deadline issue. So make sure you keep the track and information and the receipt and whatever the mail return envelope showing that you filed it, but it returned. But other than that, the answer is just simply refile it again, fix whatever the reason. So when you get the return from USCIS, it should have a cover sheet explaining the reason why it was returned, and make sure you. I'm sorry, let me stop this. Okay, the camera is moving back and forth. Okay, so make sure that you comply with whatever the reason for return was, and then send it again. Next question. I would be happy if you could tell me about getting a Nomad visa from ABS. I have no idea what Nomad visa and what ABS stands for. If you want to decipher this, but again, I don't know what this stands for. That's probably not one of those things that we do. There are, we do most of the immigration visas, green card applications, almost all of the bases. There are some, like for example, we don't deal with J visas. We do with waivers of J visas, or change of status from J, but we don't deal with getting you a J visa or G4 visa, which is the employee of the foreign organization, or A1 visa, which is diplomatic visas. So I don't know what that stands for, what it is. I haven't dealt with that. Next question is, asylum pending for 6 years, what should I do? Well, all you can do at this point is wait. Now, there are some things that inadvertently, not planned, that trigger possibly your asylum interview being scheduled faster. If you, and I'm not saying do this, move to another state for this purpose, but if you move somewhere else, now don't use a fake address, your friends or relatives' address, just for this purpose. You'll be caught, and that will significantly damage your credibility. But anyway, if you have an attorney entering in your case as your attorney, or if you move to another state, your asylum application has to be moved to another state, and that's an opportunity to supplement, to provide something to the asylum office saying, hey, my case is ready, and so on, I want to be interviewed. Now, one of the reasons the asylum office is also motivated to schedule your interview faster is if your application is complete. So, you're saying it's been filed 6 years ago and back in that time, and still to this day, some people file, and some even law firms, unfortunately, they recommend their clients to file just a bold, application, 589, without any declaration or documents supporting country reports, no affidavits or anything. So, the asylum office is not motivated. Those are the cases that are stuck in the back of the line as far as possible. So if you update the file, if you write a letter and say, hey, I'm ready, if you have a window, put my case forward, they will do that. Or if you change your lawyer, or if you don't have a lawyer and have an attorney entering appearance in your case and provide supplement for your case and all of the documentation, that also helps. Or if you change your address, move to another, not just address within the jurisdiction, but if the case goes from one asylum office to the other, and they have it at one point in their hand, or maybe digitally, figuratively speaking, in their hand, and they have to put it in the equivalent of the queue that you were in of the line that you were in the previous asylum office. And then when they do it, if you provide a letter to them saying that here's my application and everything is supplemented, I'm good to go, I'm ready for interview, if you have a window. So maybe they have a cancellation, they're motivated, instead of putting you, finding a spot for you in the line in equivalent of what you had where you were in the previous office, they maybe just go ahead and schedule your interview. I'm not saying it happens as a rule, but it happens sometimes. The necessary package. So next question, the necessary package of documents that is needed to move to the United States. So that's a very broad question, depends on the visa. So I recommend first review how you can move to the United States, and even before you talk to a lawyer and spend money on consultation, do your own research, find out what you want to apply for, what type of immigration. Do you qualify as an individual of extraordinary abilities, as a talented professional, or do you have an employer who's willing to sponsor you and want to go through the work visa or work-based EP process, employment-based immigration? Review all that. Or you want to start your own business in the U.S., first start with that, and then you can narrow it down and then talk to a lawyer and find out what it's doing. Nobody's going to give you the list of documents. No lawyer can give you a list of documents. just answering this question. It's too broad. I have a question. Are the asylum officers interviewing the applicant or all family members? So the asylum officers have to interview all family members, but the extent of the interview is limited usually to the applicant. Now, the asylum officer is not limited to asking the questions from family members about the substance of your case. What I mean by that is, by law, the asylum officer will have to ask questions, eligibility questions from all family members, as long as they're listed in your asylum application and their derivatives. Those questions about membership in groups or, previous criminal issues, previous immigration statuses, violations, and so on. So those standard yes or no questions the asylum officer has to ask from each family member separately. But usually when they first start the questioning with you, the applicant, they go through the substance of your case, ask all of the details about your case, and then they go through those standard yes or no questions with you, eligibility questions, and then they go to your family members, and they usually bring the family member in, and you're still there, and they go through those eligibility questions with family members. Now, if you have a spouse or a child, maybe anywhere under 21, maybe 18 years old, who knows or observed or witnessed anything in your case, or who wrote an affidavit of support because they were witness, then the asylum officer can and likely will ask the questions from them. So that happens, and you also can decide. You can also tell the officer, hey, my wife is my witness. I also want you, to interview her. She's my witness. So, you can kind of tell the officer to ask questions from your spouse if your spouse was a witness in your case. Okay, and that was a good question. You should know this. Does it help if you speak English as your primary language during the interviews? Yes, it does. It does help. It helps your interview smoother. The officer is less irritated. Everything is clearer. The emotions are, properly conveyed. So everything is better if you are able to speak English. And it's also human factor. I mean, sometimes I have applicants who've been here, 7 years before the interview, and they're saying, I'm going to bring an interpreter. And they're speaking fluent to me in English. And I'm like, why do you need that? Oh, because my friend told me that you need a translator. Or maybe there will be complicated questions. No, there will not be. And if there will be, you will have an opportunity to tell the officer that, officer, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that term. Can you please repeat it? Or, whatever. So don't worry about it. Use the simple language, and don't bring an interpreter if you don't need one. All right, I have too many questions. I'll try to do as much as I can. I just got my asylum case granted by immigration and also have I-130 in file. What is my best option to get my green card faster? Can I apply for a refugee travel document? So congratulations with your asylum. The I-130 in the file is not going to give you green card. If you have 485, then it's going to give you a green card. The difference between asylum granted now and I-130, on which you may be able, if it's I-130 by your U.S. citizen spouse or child, then you may be eligible to file adjustment of status now, versus through asylum, you'll be eligible in 1 year after 12 months. Now, they changed the rule about the physical presence, and people misinterpreted it. So now some people say, oh, can I there are rumors, and there are even like articles I read the other day in one of those, Russian misinformation websites, which said that, the rules changed, now you can file for green card as soon as you get granted asylum. No, that's wrong. That's not what changed. What changed is if you were absent, for example, on a travel document, as this person is asking, then if you travel outside of the U.S., then that gets deducted from those 12 months. So you can still file after 12 months, and as long as by the time they review your adjustment of status based on asylum, as long as by that time you accrued days to fill those gaps that you were absent from the U.S., then you'll still be good to go. That's what changed. I mean, in terms of filing, for your purposes, for the facts, for the practical purposes, nothing changed, because the asylum adjudications used to take years anyways. I mean, not the asylum, the adjustment of status after asylum takes about a year or two anyways. So nothing really changed. So anyway, you still have to wait for 1 year to file for asylum I-485 versus with I-130 through U.S. citizen spouse. You can file it now. And if you file it now, you're going to get it earlier, quicker, your green card. You will still be eligible for travel document, even with your green card through marriage with U.S. citizen, because at one point you were granted asylum status, and asylum gives you protections more than the regular green card gives. So that's, you got two benefits there. Plus, you will be eligible for citizenship earlier than if you got your green card through asylum, because if you're U.S. citizen, if your spouse is a U.S. citizen, so it's better to file. Long story short, if you're eligible, you're 485 at this point for marriage. All right. My lawyer has submitted my asylum application in August 2022. We haven't received receipt from the asylum office since that. Please advise. Yes, that's the standard case now. Unfortunately, all the receipts are delayed. You're not alone. Everybody's in the same boat. So just be patient. And it's around this time now we're getting those receipts for those applications filed in August. But now the good news for new filers, new asylum filers, is that you can file online and you get receipts much quicker. But back then in August, and I think it was until the beginning of this year or so, or end of December or so, there was no online filing, so all of those are stuck and the receipts are still taking time. So hang on tight, you'll get the receipt. All right. But if your EAD time already arrived, if 6 months, 5 months, 150 days passed from the date you filed, add another 10 days until the asylum office received and so on, then do file your EAD. I don't want, I usually don't recommend my clients to wait and lose more time just waiting for the receipt, because it's the same office, USCIS, not same office, but same, agency, USCIS, and they can find out that your asylum is pending already. It's just you don't have the receipt. Okay. Hello, Mr. Ismail. I would like to ask, do you have experience in the Boston Immigration Court? Yes, I do. I actually was dealing with a client yesterday for whom I got asylum through Boston Immigration Court just a couple months ago. I do have a lot of experience in Boston Immigration Court, and it's great court, convenient, but I mean, every case is different. If yes, do they cancel master hearing and scheduling individual hearing after requesting that? Yes, all of the immigration courts are. There was a memorandum issued which what do you call it? Encourages the immigration judges to cancel master hearing. So if you don't have anything substantive to discuss, just file your written pleadings, and to do that, you do have to have a written pleading. And then we file a motion with the court asking to waive the master hearing and schedule individual hearing together with the written pleadings. So written pleadings is basically a document which puts in writing what would have occurred at the master hearing orally. So it encourages, and then you tell the judge schedule individual hearing. Now, one loss in waiving the master hearing and scheduling, asking the court to schedule random individual hearing, is that it picks the random date. So if your lawyer doesn't have that date available, then you may have to file another motion asking to continue the date and so on. So unless the master hearing is about a year or more further in the future, I usually tell my clients, hey, let's wait. If it's like 3-4 months from now, let's wait and let's do the master hearing. That will ensure that I have my calendar available, and that will give me an opportunity, if you want your case faster, to actually ask the court and tell the court, Judge, if you have the earliest available date, we're ready to go. We have everything filed. But if you file the paper, you can still ask it, but most likely the judge is just going to pass it to the clerk, and the clerk, he's not going to read the whole thing, and they may just your motion and just schedule it for the first available individual hearing and so on. So anyway, it depends on the circumstances, case by case. Sometimes it's good to waive the master hearing, sometimes it's not. All right, I come to the U.S., someone else's passport, my asylum case was granted, immigration judge, did my misrepresentation will be forgiven in case I want to get my green card through marriage with U.S. citizen? Yes, well, you got granted asylum, so that waives, you can. So okay, well, that waived for the purpose of filing adjustment of status through your asylum. And misrepresentation through your spouse. Well, I mean, okay, that's a good question. That's a novel question. I can share my opinion, but what you need to do is you need to consult with the lawyer. And the important part is when you file your adjustment. I apologize. I need to. One second. I'm in a live YouTube session. I need to finish this. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. As I said, I'm short on time. So yeah, it's a you should consult with a lawyer, and it's very important when you file adjustment of status based on marriage. You have to disclose, and that's one of the traps. I'm glad you're forthcoming with that, and you will have to disclose that, because if you don't, then you're gonna have an issue with the misrepresentation now as to the misrepresentation in the past entering with your fake passport. And that for anybody who doesn't know, if you used any fake document or fake information, or provided or didn't make a misrepresentation, provided false information at the time when you were escaping from persecution and entering the US, that is forgiven when you're granted asylum. And that usually is not a big factor for asylum, because it's considered that people have to resort to many different things to save their lives, for their safety, well-being of their family, and so on. It's like as if there is a war, and you're doing many things. So how you arrive in the United States for the purpose of asylum doesn't matter. You can don't do it. So I'm not saying do it, but if you use a fake document, or if you dug a tunnel, or jumped off the parachute, you're still going to be eligible for asylum, as long as you have basis for it. So this person did that, and now they're also married with the U.S. citizen, so they're thinking about applying for a green card, not through asylum, but through U.S. citizen marriage, which is a good idea, as I explained that in the previous question. I guess it was from the same person. But the question is, when you say that you did misrepresent, does that create? My suspicion is no, it doesn't, because they cannot deport you because you already been granted asylum. So the misrepresentation makes you inadmissible for permanent residency, but you already been granted asylum, and that kind of issue has already been resolved. But anyway, I suggest you do talk to an attorney, and this question requires research. That's an interesting question. Can an asylee petition for their parents? No, they can't. Only spouse and children under 21. I'm traveling to Mexico, but I have a stopover in the USA. Can I seek asylum in the USA? Yeah, you can seek asylum. I mean, as I said, it doesn't matter how you arrive, through transit, or arrive at the checkpoint, and or run and surrender yourself to U.S. law enforcement at any border point. It's how you can apply for asylum. How long does it take for asylum to be granted in the United States? It's a billion-dollar question, probably. Nobody knows. The asylum interviews and hearings are significantly delayed. It may take years. It may take months. Most likely years. If I have threatening text messages and it was 2 months before I seek asylum, should I show the officer? Yes, of course. Anything update, any new threats, any new issues. I usually tell my clients before the interview, hey, let's call your parents or relatives or neighbors or whoever would have possibly known, and see if somebody came and looked for you and asked for you after in any recent times. And sometimes they say no, and I say, well, let's contact and check. Let's check. And then sometimes we do, and then the parents say, hey, yes, by the way, this officer or the local officer was asking about you, and so on, or somebody was looking for you, or we got this message asking where is this person. So it's always a good idea and helpful. I had an interesting case recently. The guy had security cameras installed in his house, in his home, like it was a single family home with a yard and fence and so on. So he had a bunch of security. The guy was actually working for security company installing all these cameras. So he had a bunch of them. And as we were here preparing for his asylum case, his security camera sent a message that one of the FSB, which is KGB for Russia, the modern KGB in Russia. So the FSB officers came and were looking, and we actually could pull those videos and the screenshots of those uniformed FSB officers actually coming and knocking the door, and then asking the neighbors around about this guy. And there was this one screenshot of the neighbor talking to that officer and so on. So that's golden. That's evidence right there that wins you the case. I did not take any of the take any of the give reasons, grounds at my border patrol. I interview my asylum coming up. So what I can, it's very not understandable. And I understand you probably don't speak fluent English, and that's understandable. But I don't understand the question, so I cannot, so. Uh, oh, I see. It says that. Okay, I understand now. It says that you didn't provide the reasons to the border patrol. How can you amend uh, at the interview so that it's not inconsistent? Well, interview is usually your chance to amend things. Okay, so at the interview, so see, the longer you wait, the more your your inconsistency becomes engraved in your case and hurts your case more and more. So uh, if you didn't provide some information at the border, now at the interview, it's time for you to fix it. Okay, so make sure you fix it, and even before you are asked that question, tell the officer that, okay, this camera is again doing this. Let me make sure it stops. Okay, so make sure to tell the officer as soon as possible that, hey, I have this issue, that this, but you have to have an explanation. The officer is still going to ask, why don't you tell the officer at the border? All right. I want to move to the USA for a living, working there. I am a great cybersecurity engineer. How can I find to move there for working? Please search online, do your own research, and then consult with attorney. This is a very broad question. Okay, next. Does delays in receiving notice from USCIS affect work permit processing time? Yes, it does if you wait for it, but my recommendation is file for your work permit at the time when it arrives. But without a receipt, you don't know the exact time. So in the past, we also emailed the local asylum office asking them to make sure that it's filed. So you have to be creative about this, or you can file the EAD without the receipt, but providing information that you filed and the receipts are delayed, and the USCIS is able to actually find out. But again, you don't know your A number, and they don't know it, so you have to be creative. If you have a lawyer, they should be able to find a way to do that. All right, I'm a withholding of removal process. My lawyer filed 589 2 months ago for Asylum Office, and after 2 days of filing, my first court master calendar. All right, I have no idea. There's no question. It just says scheduled, receive the receipt notice. So what? This is two case specific question, and you have a lawyer. Talk to your lawyer. I'm not saying that don't ask for a second opinion, but it's just very case specific question. You have too many details there. I don't think I can help you in this live video session. Hello, sir. Good morning. After gaining asylum, do I need to change my social security number and work permit, or should I continue using the current one with limitations? No, you don't need a work permit when you get asylum. You are eligible to be employed. You don't need a work permit at all. In terms of social security, yes, the social security does have say usually that it's with limitations. You can go to Social Security Administration, or you can go online to SSA's website and see how to do that. Now, we don't deal with social securities. We only deal with the immigration part. Sometimes we're asked questions about social security or with the state driver's license, which we are unfortunately unable to do, to answer. Okay. After gaining okay, so are you still on? Yes, I am still on. I don't know if you're not seeing this, but I am getting questions. Okay, I am on asylum pending. Can I apply by national interest waiver in order to obtain status or adjust? Thank you. It depends. So if you have been unlawfully present before your asylum case was filed, then you may have even trouble getting any green card through national interest waiver at all, or through employment based, if it's been more than 6 months. If it's been less than 6 months, you may have a chance to go through the consulate abroad. It's a very delicate process. You will need advance parole not to lose your asylum case in the process. And there are multiple steps. So we have done it. I do it frequently. So talk to a lawyer. I'm not trying to sell my services. Talk to any lawyer who's competent, but don't do it yourself. It's a very delicate process. You can mess up your asylum case, or just waste your time and money on national interest waiver or EB2, EB3 process. All right, next question. Hi, do N400 question 23 relate to asylee grant holder who got detained during the time seeking asylum at the port of entry? Good question. Now, I cannot give you advice how to fill out the form, and that's not what I'm doing here, but I can tell you that generally when you fill out your your citizenship application or adjustment of status forms after you were granted asylum, be extremely careful. The information has to be consistent. Now, the questions on the form are very specific, okay? So take those questions as you read them. So if the question in any of the forms says, have you ever been charged with any crimes or cited by any law enforcement, and it doesn't say anywhere, it doesn't say in the US or it doesn't say in your country, it just leaves it out, that means anywhere else. Anywhere in the world. Or most of the time, to prevent even people, being smart and saying, "Oh, I didn't understand it," the USCIS actually puts there anywhere in the world. So if it says that, take that question, read. It's very plain. It's very understandable. If you don't understand it, get a lawyer to do it. If you don't understand that question that the USCIS wrote in the N400 form, you are risking substantially causing some substantial inconsistencies. I've seen many people who came to us after they've been placed in removal proceedings 10, 12 years after their asylum was granted at the stage of filing for citizenship. Get a lawyer. It's the last step. It's the last chance for the USCIS to go back and review an entire history of immigration. So, and if there is anything that is considered a little bit, not a little bit, I'm talking about misrepresented in your N400, you're either going to lose your asylum case, you're going to be placed in removal proceedings in immigration court, or your citizenship is going to be denied, and then you'll have to wait 5 more years to qualify. So be very careful, please. It's just so many people I see are being burned because they put wrong information in the forms at the stage of green card after asylum or citizenship after asylum. Okay, next question. Hi, sir. I have the choice to apply for asylum in Canada or USA in 2023. Which of these two countries are more easier, please? Which one do you recommend? I don't deal with Canadian immigration laws or asylum laws, so I cannot comment as to anything. I cannot compare those two. How can you be afraid of your life and after you get a legal resident in the US go back to the same country and government you come from? Yes, you cannot. You should not go back to the same country. You should not go. If you do, that creates a question. It doesn't automatically lose your asylum or green card, but it creates a substantial question as, what happened? You were telling us that you were afraid to go back. Now you got asylum or green card, and now you went back, because green card is just a permanent residence. It's not citizenship. So, you're not as protected as a U.S. citizen. So that raises question, and you may lose your asylum. It may be revisited and re-reviewed if you do that. So prefer not to go. If you go, you have to have strong reasons and evidence how you were able to go and do it safely. All right. I'm being asked to ask for more questions, but I can't. Unfortunately, I have to cut it short. I have 2 more questions I will answer. If you have further questions, after this video is uploaded, you will have comment section. Put those questions. We try to answer as much as we can in the comments, and then feel free to contact us. Again, please like this video, and please subscribe to our channel, and please comment once this video is posted. So the last 2 questions I have: can I apply for TPS in immigration court if I'm in the removal process? Not in immigration court. You apply for TPS with the USCIS. So even if you're in the removal proceedings, you file it with the USCIS. Would you? Excuse me. Ooh, all right, that's probably time to end. Next question. Would you suggest me best asylum lawyer in San Francisco? Well, you don't need to have an asylum lawyer in this city or state, or in the location that you are in. The asylum laws are federal, and all immigration laws are federal, and all of the asylum offices allow remote attorney participation, and the asylum immigration courts allow remote attorney participation. So don't limit your choices. I'm not saying there are no good lawyers in San Francisco. Go online, go to American Immigration Lawyers Association. If you do insist that you want somebody close by to you, that's fine.
but everything is done remotely. There is no need to limit yourself to only one location. And guess what? We'll be happy to help you. So please contact us. All right. And I need to process my re-entry. I am currently out of country, but will come back. How much do you charge to process? So the re-entry permit, you cannot file for re-entry permit outside of the United States, unfortunately. So once you're here, then we can take care of it. There is no standard fee for re-entry permit. I would say it's typically around 1,500 or so, somewhere around that, in terms of legal fees for the process. But you have to be physically present in the US. So what we can do, though, we can prepare the application. We can help you prepare the documents to carry with you upon your entry, so you don't get into trouble this time. But then once you're entered, the minute you're here, as long as we have everything ready, then we can file. All right, I said 2 applications, but there are more being posted. I cannot continue this. Okay, so but I will answer those that have been posted. Can I claim asylum at airport and I'm in transit? Yes, I already previously answered that question. Bless you, and bless you too, sir. How should I answer if they ask, why are you afraid of going back to the country? Well, that depends on your case. There is no standard answer, so you should explain what happened. Why are you afraid? So, answer with truth. Hello, a question right now. You can apply for EAD 30 days after filing online. No, that's not right. It's 150 days, whether it's online or not. And the last question, what is the wait time for K1 visa? Also, how long for spousal visa? Depends on the consulate, but it takes about, roughly, I would say around 10 to 12 months, sometimes 18 months. But again, it depends a lot on the consulate. As long as everything is done correctly, those dates. For some cases, when somebody files forms wrong or provides wrong information, that can take years and years. So, very good lawyer. The K1 process is not as easy as it may seem. There are a bunch of forms, documents, several stages of the process. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I greatly appreciate your time and for listening. Please hit like and subscribe to the channel, and we will do this again, I believe, in 2 weeks. I may be wrong, but we'll put an announcement. So that's another reason to subscribe to the channel, so that you can see the announcement of these videos probably around a week ahead or so with the topics that we're going to be discussing. A lot of our topics are on asylum, because that's what primarily we do in terms of immigration, but we do most of, investor visas, we do employment-based and family reunification, but asylum is one of the focuses. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and have a nice rest of the week. And the contacts are in the chat and at the bottom of this. Thank you. Bye-bye.